Nowadays, you find references to emotional intelligence everywhere, along with advice as to how sharpening your emotional quotient can dramatically increase your chances of success. But there's only one question. What is emotional intelligence? Basically, emotional intelligence is the ability to identify, understand, and effectively manage emotions, both your own and those of others. I shall distill the entire concept into a single, even simpler sentence for you. Emotional intelligence is the ability to make emotions work for you instead of against you. This definition is powerful because it emphasizes the fact that emotional intelligence is a practical skill. It's not just understanding how emotions work. It's being able to use that knowledge to help yourself and others. To understand further, it's helpful to break it down into 4 elements of emotional intelligence, or general abilities. Self-awareness. Self-awareness is the ability to identify and understand your own emotions and how they affect you. This means recognizing how emotions impact your thoughts and actions, and vice versa, and how your feelings can help or hinder you from achieving your goals. Self-awareness includes the ability to recognize your emotional tendencies, strengths, and weaknesses. Self-management. Self-management is the ability to manage emotions in a way that allows you to accomplish a task, reach a goal, or provide a benefit. It includes the quality of self-control, which is the ability to control your emotional reactions. Since emotions involve your natural instinctive feelings and are influenced by your unique brain chemistry, you can't always control how you feel. But you can control the way you act or refrain from acting upon those feelings. Practicing self-control can therefore reduce the chance you say or do something you later regret, especially in an emotionally charged situation. Over a longer period of time, self-management can even help you proactively shape your emotional tendencies. Social awareness. Social awareness is the ability to accurately perceive the feelings of others and understand how those feelings influence behavior. Social awareness is founded on the quality of empathy, which allows you to see and feel things from the perspective of others. Empathy keeps you in tune with others' wants and needs, and it equips you to better satisfy those desires, increasing the value you have to offer. Social awareness also provides you with a more complete picture of others. It helps you understand the role emotions play in your relationships and social regulation. Relationship management. Relationship management is the ability to get the most out of your connections with others. It includes the ability to influence through your communication and behavior. Instead of trying to force others into action, you use insight and persuasion to motivate them to act on their own accord. Relationship management also involves bringing emotional benefits to others. Doing so gradually increases the level of trust and strengthens the bond between you and your partners. Now you know what are the 4 components of emotional intelligence, but how do these 4 elements or general abilities work together? Each of the 4 components of emotional intelligence is interconnected and naturally complements the others. However, one isn't always dependent on another. You will naturally excel at certain aspects of the 4 abilities and display weaknesses in others. For example, you may be great at perceiving your own emotions, yet you struggle to manage those feelings. The key to strengthening your emotional intelligence is first to identify your personal traits and tendencies, and then to develop strategies to maximize your strength and minimize your weaknesses. Consider the trait of social awareness. The ability to anticipate and understand the feelings of others can help you avoid creating unnecessary offense, a skill that makes you more likable and draws others to you. But that same attribute can become a weakness if it inhibits your ability to speak up when you should, or stops you from giving critical yet helpful feedback for fear of how others will react. Social awareness is therefore most effective when it is tempered with the other three abilities. Self-awareness helps you identify when this perception of others' feelings is holding you back from saying or doing something that could be helpful. Self-management involves preparing yourself for such situations and cultivating the habits that motivate you to action. Finally, the ability to manage relationships will help you say whatever you need to say in a way that accomplishes your purpose while increasing influence, mitigating hurt feelings, and building trust. Are you wondering, what does emotional intelligence and its components look like in real life? Here is a practical example for you. While answering the questions, Steve Jobs at the Worldwide Developer Conference in 1997 braved insulting remarks with the highest quality when an audience member said, "It's sad and clear that on several counts you've discussed, you don't know what you're talking about. I would like, for example, for you to express in clear terms how, say, Java and any of its incarnations addresses the ideas embodied in OpenDoc. And when you're finished with that, perhaps you could tell us what you personally have been doing for the last 7 years." Ouch. For most of us, a public attack such as this one would leave us at least a little flustered. But Steve Jobs' insult response is a perfect demonstration of what's the highest quality coping in a situation like this. He takes a pause. The first thing Jobs does is probably the hardest. He takes a pause, sits in silence, and thinks. In what seems like an eternity to the audience, and in reality lasted about 10 seconds, Jobs takes a sip of water and reflects on both the criticism and the question. "You know," he begins his reply, "you can please some of the people some of the time, but," another pause, this time for about 8 seconds. I've written extensively on the value of the pause, a technique that involves taking a few moments, or sometimes more, to stop and think before taking action. The pause is so valuable because it allows you to get your emotions under control and think things through before you say or do something you'll regret. Jobs' initial pause gives him the time he needs to compose himself and come back with a thoughtful and remarkable response. He agrees with his accuser. One of the hardest things when you're trying to effect change is that people like this gentleman are right. In some areas, explains Jobs. For years, psychologists and other academics have argued that the best way to change a person's mind is not to attack their position, but rather to find common ground. Jobs does this perfectly by acknowledging that this man is right. They are surely features with OpenDoc, the program in question, that he isn't familiar with. But becoming familiar with every feature of every app is not the CEO's job, as he goes on to explain. He helps everyone see the big picture. Jobs goes on to outline his role at Apple. It's not to know the ins and outs of every piece of software. Rather, it's to see the big picture, to reiterate the vision, and to keep everyone on course. The hardest thing is, how does that fit into a cohesive, larger vision that's going to allow you to sell $8 billion, $10 billion of product a year? And one of the things I've always found is that you've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You can't start with the technology and try to figure out when you're going to try to sell it. This extremely compelling vision of working backwards from customer experience may have been innovative at the time, But, as history proved, it was right. He uses vulnerability to his advantage. In reference to working back to the customer, Jobs continues, and I've made this mistake probably more than anybody else in this room, and I've got the scar tissues to prove it, and I know that it's the case. Jobs not only explains his vision, he uses his own learnings to help establish his credibility. In essence, he begs stakeholders and shareholders to benefit from his experience. He praises his people. There are a whole lot of people working super hard right now at Apple, Jobs exclaims. He names a few examples before going on to credit the whole team, literally hundreds of people. They're doing their best, says Jobs. With these words, Jobs gets behind his team. He acknowledges them. He praises them. He lets them know he's got their backs. This inspires the team and others to get behind him too. He finishes strong. Jobs' final words are motivating. Some mistakes will be made, by the way. Some mistakes will be made along the way. And that's good, because at least some decisions are being made along the way. And we'll find the mistakes and we'll fix them, Jobs says to applause. He then comes full circle to the original questioner. Mistakes will be made. Some people will not know what they're talking about, but I think it is so much better than where things were not very long ago. And I think we're going to get there. This example illustrates the power of Steve Jobs' emotional intelligence, but you'll have plenty of chances to see it in your own life as well. You'll also have opportunities galore to build your EQ. As you learn to identify your natural abilities, tendencies, strengths, and weaknesses, you can use that data to inform personal strategies to manage your thoughts, words, and actions, and use these to achieve your goals. Achieve these 4 components of emotional intelligence, and you'll be making emotions work for you instead of against you. Now, I have a question for you all. What is emotional intelligence and why is it important for you? Write your answer in the comments section. Dear fellows, Mr. Smart has crafted this animation based on the writing of Justin Bariso, who is the author of EQ Applied, the real-world guide to emotional intelligence. Subscribe to this channel for more animations based on his writings. Live long, smart living.